All right, it's now 6 p.m. We'll go ahead and start the meeting for February 7th, 2023. And we'll go ahead and stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. And now we'll move on to item 3 of the agenda, to review, revise, and approve the agenda for tonight. Are there any trustees who would like to remove or move an agenda item? Seeing no motion, or seeing no changes, a motion to approve tonight's agenda. Moved by Trustee Sherman, second by Vice Chair Hobbins. Any public comment on the agenda? All trustees in favor of approving tonight's agenda, please indicate yes by raising your hand. Agenda approved. On to 4, approved minutes for the regular board meeting on January 24, 2023. Moved by Trustee Sherman, second by Vice Chair Walker-Andrews. Any trustee comments? Any public comment on the minutes? All those in favor of approving the minutes for January 24, 2023, please indicate yes by raising your hand. Unanimous to all trustees present. On to item 5, which is public comment on non-agenda items. The public comment portion of the meeting is set aside for the public to address the board as a body. It is not time for board response or for the public to ask questions. Do not infringe on the right of privacy of others. Please sign in and spell your first and last name. You are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. The chair can terminate an individual speaker if the statements are out of order. Any public comment on non-agenda items? Seeing none, no. And there were written correspondence that we already viewed. So now we're on to item number 6, reports and announcements, and over to Superintendent Lodge.
Good evening, everybody. Just one announcement tonight. The House Bill 2 is the funding bill in the legislature. It seems to be moving pretty speedily through the legislature. So we're thinking that in a couple of weeks we will know what our inflationary costs will be and what is going to be built into the budget for all school districts. We're going to have our enrollment count finished. February 6th, I believe, was our second count date, and we're compiling those numbers again with the fall count. We've got some demographic information that's been returned, and we're analyzing that as well. So on the 23rd of this month, we've got a budget committee of the board that's going to meet. We'll present as much projections as we can for our budget for 23-24, and then we'll carry that over to the meeting on the 28th from 2 weeks from now. So we hope to be able to update you with the projections of where we stand. We've got levy votes tonight on the agenda to talk about just reserving dates. But on the 28th, we hope to get into a further discussion of levy possibilities and the pros and cons of that discussion as well. So I just want to tell you that with everything else that's going on, we're working to get the preliminary projections for our budget to you in 2 weeks so that we can start to get into that conversation. And that's a budget that you won't finalize till August, but I think it's timely that we get going now. So just want to let you know that's what's coming, and we will present that preliminarily to the budget committee, and then we'll follow through with the full board on the 28th. That's all I have. Thanks.
All right, on to item number 7, which is the executive session for the Board of Trustees. It is 6:04, and I'm closing the meeting to the public, and then we will reconvene after. We'll let you know when we're done. The time is 7:17, and the meeting's open back to the public. We are waiting for Zoom to come up, and we're on Zoom. So the 7:17 and the meeting is open to the public.
Recording in progress.
All right, so now we're back to item 8, which is new business. And we'll go into topic 1, which is a trustee discussion on superintendent candidates. It is now open to any trustees. Trustee Decker.
So we had a lively discussion and a rich discussion during our executive session just now. We also reviewed just now and for some prior, the many, many comments from the community forums that took place as part of the interview process. Those were forums that included meetings with administrators, with unions, with community members, with staff, and so we reviewed the comments on all three of the candidates. We were really in consensus that we appreciated all of the time and effort that went into the process on the part of MCPS staff, particularly Tracy Long, and really want to extend a tremendous thanks and gratitude to her for all of her efforts around this process. And we also want to thank all three of the candidates. We really were in consensus that the candidates, gave us their time, gave us their respectful engagement in the process. In our executive session, what I'll, just say is that we also were in consensus that this, thus far, has been an unsuccessful search for our next superintendent. So I'll stop there for the moment.
Trustee Witt?
Yeah, and I'd like to echo everything too. There was, we come to consensus. That doesn't mean there wasn't some lively discussion and some disagreements along the way. But yeah, in the end, we got 3 candidates that we got to discuss at length, and I appreciate all their time, and I appreciate Tracy and the search firm and everybody in doing this. But as of right now, I don't feel like we are ready to go with any of them that we have seen so far.
Trustee Afgaris?
Missoula County Public Schools were a very unique school district, and I'm sure every school district says that. But we are we need a lot. This is I said it in the interviews, this is a really hard job, this superintendent. And these 3 candidates each had some strong things that they were very strong in. They had some diverse from each other, some experiences that made them very strong. Not one candidate encompassed everything that we need as a superintendent. We need a lot, and we have high expectations. Our community has high expectations. Our school community, our unions, our teachers, our staff, a lot of lively feedback for all of this, good and constructive. So that was just the lineup here, is that no one candidate from this pool had everything that we need at MCPS.
And per our policy 5120, no candidate met our best meets our criteria. And that's one thing that we wanted to make note was our policy as well. Any other Vice Chair Hobbins?
I'll just add in, agree with everything that my fellow trustees said, but I just wanted to say something that I said in executive session, which is that I just don't think that any of, okay, I'll start that again. We don't have the time to let somebody get to know this district and to get to know our students and our staff. We want somebody who is ready to hit the ground running. And while these candidates definitely have a lot of great experience, they don't have the experience running a district of this size. So that's why we think it was an unsuccessful search.
Trustee Mercer?
And so I think just for us, I think we're thinking of it as we'd like to continue the process, and we'd like to, I think the process has been worthwhile, and we would like to continue it, so.
Vice Chair Walker-Andrews?
I was just going to re-echo what Nancy said about we didn't feel that we can afford to hire somebody who isn't already at the same experience level, really. And yes, I think we need to just keep looking.
All right, any final comments? So now we'll move on to topic 2, which is the selection of a new superintendent. And since we were unsuccessful in our search, I'll entertain a motion from a trustee. Trustee Witcher?
I'd like to make the motion to reopen the superintendent search for a public search for 10 days.
Second. Second by Trustee Mercer. Any final comments? Trustee Decker?
I would just say that we appreciate all the public's involvement in the process so far, and although we would imagine, given the needs and timeliness of the next part of the search, that may pose challenges that we hope folks will overcome, because we want people to continue to be involved. Input from staff, input from the community has been very important in helping the board come to consensus, and we would hope that the process for this next reopened phase will also include those kinds of forums and opportunities for input and opportunities for comment from all of those critical groups without whom the district can't make great decisions.
All right, all those in favor for the motion, please indicate yes by raising your hand. Oh, I always forget this part. Any public comment? Just up here, and you can press the red button to the
Okay. So I'm Doug Rosberg, and I am one of the vice presidents of the Missoula Education Association and an instructional coach for the district. I just want to thank you for your thoughtful consideration. When surveyed and seeing the resumes, doing independent research of the candidates for the position, the majority of our members felt the exact same way that this team feels, and I appreciate you recognizing those thoughts and the thoughts of all the stakeholders as part of this search. Thank you. A little red light.
Hi, I'm Carlene Hathaway. I am the president of MMCEO, the classified staff here in MCPS, and I do want to express on behalf of MMCEO members our appreciation for the incredibly well-organized setup for the superintendent candidate interviews, and for allowing us, along with the Missoula Education Association representatives, to meet and interview the candidates that we had. You have our feedback, or you had our feedback in your packets for your executive session. Our unions also put out, as Doug said, a survey following the meet and greets, and took comments from our members, as well as personal emails that they sent to us. The survey results, the results from our union interviews with the candidates, along with the email comments from our members, supports your decision and thoughts about wanting to move forward with opening the search back up. We understand how arduous this process is, but we also greatly respect the feeling that the right candidate has not been found at this time. Though each had their own redeeming qualities, we felt that none of them stood out as a viable choice to guide a district of this size and this caliber. So we thank you again on behalf of the unions for allowing us the opportunity to have the interviews and to have these discussions, and how well organized this was to allow the public comment and staff comment. Thank you.
press the red button.
Hi. My name is Susan Tower. I am the Executive Director of the Missoula Education Foundation. And on behalf of the foundation, I wanted to thank you all for your time, your thoughtfulness, your dedication to our school district, to our students, teachers, families, everybody who's involved. And I know that this was not an easy decision, but as a member of the community and someone who really enjoys doing what I can do to support our school district, I think we can all say we fully support the decision to reopen the search, and we look forward to continued partnership with the district and working with the next superintendent when they are found.
Any other public comment? Seeing none now, all those in favor for the motion on the table, please indicate yes by raising your hand. Unanimous to all trustees present, motion passed. Now on to item B, which is finance, operation, and maintenance. And that is, topic 1 is the update on the Missoula Child Care Advantage pilot project at Cold Springs. And this is over to Trustee Decker and Mr. McHugh.
You know, I won't take any of Grace's time on this topic. Grace is the resident expert. I would just provide a little background that the board is already aware of. This is a great program that relates to a grant that the United Way, through Trustee Decker and others, was able to apply for and receive a $400,000+ grant to support increasing in childcare support and services in our community. And so the board, through a resolution, supported this concept, and we're at that point, or getting to that point, where the board will be looking at a lease with this organization, and Grace can provide some more detailed information about the operational aspects and the proposed improvements. So thank you, Trustee Decker.
Thanks. So thank you, Pat, and thank you, Chair Oldperson. I just want to say that I just took off my trustee name tag for the moment. I'm putting on my United Way work name tag. I would go and sit over there and do this from there, except that I actually want to introduce my colleague, Sally Henkel, who I'd like to have come and sit there and share just a little bit of information as we go through. So Sally, come on up to the... So Sally Henkel is the new project coordinator for Missoula Child Care Advantage. She's able to work full-time on this project, and she's on day 6 with our organization. And so she's hitting the ground running for sure, but we will have her I'll have her talk a little bit about the project as we go through as well. I just wanted to thank you for this chance to talk about the project a little bit, and I'm going to talk about it in some broad terms, because I think for trustees to feel well informed about why we're doing this and why we've really approached, we being the United Way, has approached the district as a partner on this project, is that the project can meet some shared goals that we have in the community. So 0 to 5 is the initiative for which I work at the United Way, and it is an initiative that's focused on the goal of school readiness for all children in Missoula County. If you can go to the next slide. So our goal is school readiness for all, and in order to achieve that goal, in looking at children birth to 5, we focus on 3 action areas. They are collaboration between the early care and education sector, the child care sector, preschool, informal learning, and K-12 education. So collaboration is built in. Oh, if you can go back. We also focus in the middle on support for families, and then we also are paying a lot of attention to the idea of access to high quality early care and ed, because we know that access to great early experiences, birth to 5, makes a difference for kindergarten readiness. Okay, now you can go on. So for each of those action areas that 0 to 5 pays attention to, we have a project, and MCPS is actually involved in several of these projects as well. The Early Learning Fellows, which Doug Rosberg, who's here, is a member of, is a collaboration work group where folks are designing action plans around kindergarten readiness. We coordinate the kindergarten entry assessment, and over the past couple of years, MCPS has moved to full adoption in the kindergarten entry assessment in all kindergarten classrooms. I see a kindergarten teacher there who was involved in the kindergarten entry assessment, actually 2 who were involved this very year in the kindergarten entry assessment. And then importantly, Missoula Child Care Advantage, which we hope to pilot at an empty school building that belongs to MCPS. So you can go to the next slide as well. So here's the deal with childcare, right? Childcare is critical because quality experiences birth to 5 are critical. Quality experiences, whether they happen with family in the home or in care settings. The reality is that today most families need care settings because to make ends meet, most families need all available adults to be in the workforce. And so childcare is a critical component of most young children's lives. Childcare is really expensive. It's the second highest expense for most families right after their rent or their mortgage. And yet childcare pays very, very poorly. $11 to $13 an hour is still the norm in early care and education settings. It is not enough to live on. And so because of those things, because childcare is critical and yet pays so poorly, childcare is scarce. Anyone who has kids under the age of 3 right now will tell you that it is possible to sit on wait lists for years. You can get on a wait list for childcare when you become pregnant and still never find a childcare slot. In Missoula County, there are only licensed childcare slots for 40% of the children who might need them. So for every 100 children who might need childcare, we only have licensed care for 40 children. And that means that families are using a patchwork of care that is of unequal quality, and it's not an equitable start. Childcare did receive some funding over the past couple of years thanks to ARPA dollars, but that was stabilization funding that is going away. And so it is very likely that we will continue to see childcare closures in the community and the situation will become more dire. So the Department of Public Health and Human Services made a grant available. The purpose of the grant was to increase childcare slots in communities all across the state, and to do that by collaborating in the community to try something new. Our proposal, which is called Missoula Child Care Advantage, was one of 32 proposals funded across the state. We received an award for $416,000 to implement our proposal, which I'll talk about a little bit. We were notified of that award in September, and all the funds have to be expended because this is COVID money by September of 2024. So we're trying to move as quickly as we can. Our model is a very innovative model in the state. The state folks at the Department of Public Health will tell you that it's one of the most complex ideas that came forward. But we're very, very excited about what it does. Our goals are not only to increase childcare slots and to collaborate a little bit. We are engaging sectors of the community who are not usually involved in childcare problem solving because childcare can't solve childcare. Childcare is a complex issue in the community, and we need government, we need schools, we need business, and we need childcare all at the table problem solving together, and the project does that. And our goal is also to not just impact the slots we create, but stabilize the childcare sector in our community for the long term. So I'm going to ask Sally on the next slide to start talking a little bit about the different components of our model and how that achieves these goals.
I think I did this right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having us. The MCCA model has really 3 components. The first being that it is truly a network of independent childcare providers, businesses housed in our pilot site. They'll be utilizing shared services, so examples are waitlist and enrollment processes, different management systems, payroll, and among others, to improve their bottom line, which then they can provide quality childcare. This is then supported by our second component, which is a business membership. So local businesses buy into the membership. With that, their employees have preferred access to the wait list so they can get care quicker. The fees from the business membership help support the shared services, so it really offsets the cost of these shared services for providers, so they're either free or come at a really low cost. The third component of this is that we have secured private and public funding for my position This adds capacity to the project, it adds capacity to 0 to 5, but it also indicates sustainability over the long term and a long-term commitment to this project. We can go to the next slide, please. In light of sustainability and really honoring that long-term stabilization of childcare in our community, we hope to expand and replicate this model elsewhere, either across the state or elsewhere in Missoula. But after a couple of years of running, and once we kind of work out some kinks and it's a little bit stable itself, we hope to expand this network beyond the pilot site itself. So providers who maybe aren't able to join co-located on the site, they can then join the network. And so as different businesses join, it expands, they can utilize the shared services.
So as Sally mentioned, thank you, Sally, day 6. So the idea behind the network is that any child care business eventually who wants to be in the network can be, whether or not they're co-located. But having a site where businesses can be co-located together is going to give us a great lab to pilot the idea and learn a lot about how it works. And a partnership with Missoula County Public Schools will provide a stable place for those providers to establish new businesses and new slots, and afford some opportunities for MCPS to be a member in our network and to access some kind of child care availability through the network for MCPS staff. We learned through the process of discussions leading up to our grant proposal from Mr. Rott over there that child care closures in the community, whether they were shut down for a few days or even up to a few weeks because of COVID, because of quarantining, and just because of shortages of staff, child care closures were a significant factor in staff missing days in the buildings. And so the more that we can do to increase slots across the community, we're providing a community benefit, and then we're also potentially providing a benefit for MCPS staff as well. So in order to pilot our MCCA model at Cold Springs, we are going to bring together about 6, we think 6 is the number that we've settled on at this point, 6 independent small child care businesses, each of whom will operate out of one classroom within a wing at Cold Springs that's currently unoccupied. And in order to switch those classrooms from appropriate spaces for K-5 and have them be appropriate for 0 to 5, we need to do a couple of things. Children who are 1 and 2 can't walk down the hall to the bathroom, so each classroom needs a bathroom. So part of our renovation plan would involve installing bathrooms so that young children can access bathrooms. To meet licensing requirements, children who are that age can't necessarily do fire drills all the way out and down the hall, and so a second egress door from each classroom needs to be installed. And then we also want to look at some upgrades in light of the fact that children at that age spend most of their time literally on the floor, crawling on the floor, lying on the floor, doing everything on the floor. So we'll replace some flooring and that sort of thing. So the bulk of the grant that we've received is actually for renovation in the Cold Springs pilot site, as well as for staff during the grant period. You can go to the next slide. Sally's going to talk a little bit about our timeline.
So Grace mentioned that we received notification of the grant, that we received the grant this past September, and the deadline is September of 2024. So we have quite a bit to get done in these next few years, So right now, between now and June, we're really in a refinement phase. We're finalizing the remodel plans, and we're also just collecting all this information about shared services and the business membership, collaborating with a ton of key partners on this to really think about how is this going to fit together and what's going to make the most sense. Starting in July, we're hoping that construction remodel can start in July with an end date of December 2023. And in that interim period, we're really going to be selecting providers, putting the word out there, going through the application process, and also really setting contracts with business memberships as well as the licensing for different shared services. Beyond that, in 2024 is kind of when we have some other exciting things happening where providers are going to be moving in, enrollment is going to start, grand opening, you name it. We're really going to be busy in the spring of 2024. And after that, leading up to September, it's just evaluation. The grant will be coming to a close, and we'll just be working through what it's like to actually run the program.
Thanks, Sally. So the last things that we would just want to make sure that you all hear are that we are really grateful for the partnership and the involvement of folks from MCPS all the way along, most particularly Burley, who has shown us around the building umpteen times, not including the crawl space, because Burley doesn't do crawl spaces, apparently. And also to Pat, who's really helped think through some aspects of the financial model and helped us pull together a draft lease, which is the piece that I would want to make sure folks hear, is that we are on our end looking at a draft lease. Pat and his folks are looking at that lease, and I imagine that lease will come before this board at some point in the future, very soon. And we would not be able to pull off a project like this without the material involvement of all of these community partners. And what's really exciting, I think, about this project is that folks have said now for a long time that childcare is an issue. The business community has said childcare is a problem for us. Our city and county government have said childcare is a problem in our community. And our school district has said childcare is really harming our ability to be fully staffed. And now all of these different partners are coming together and putting something on the table to build something together. It's like a stone soup solution. No one entity is in charge of all of it, but then everyone together is building something that wasn't there before and hopefully is going to stabilize childcare. So Missoula is a great place to operate a childcare business, which means it's a great place to live and work. So with that, I just want to thank you for the time to share this, and I'd be happy to answer any questions about the project or the remodel or anything else.
Yep, again, this is information only. Any trustee questions or comments? Vice Chair Walker-Andrews?
I'm just wondering how many kids you think you're going to take in initially?
That's a great question. So there will be, we think, 6 providers in the building to begin with. They will be what's called group size providers in Montana licensing, which means that they will have a capacity each of about 12 to 15 maximum. So 75 would be the maximum with 6 programs in the building. It potentially could be a little bit less than that because with infants and toddlers, you want a smaller number in each program. Also, I just would maybe tag on to that they're not all going to be brand new slots necessarily. Providers coming into the building will need to be either opening something new or expanding from a smaller program to a larger one. So it's possible that some children will move over from where they currently are.
Vice Chair Hobbins?
Do we have a sense of like what the need is at MCPS? Like how much of our staff would take advantage of a program like this? And by the way, it's an amazing program, super inspiring, and I'm grateful to you guys for talking to us about it.
Thanks. We are really working out what the membership model is going to look like, but an important piece of it is that it's really not going to be a sense of guaranteed slots to access. Instead, employees who are in member organizations will be able to access an online portal where they will input their childcare needs and a match will be made if one is available. If one's not available, because they are in a member company or a member organization, they will move more quickly on that wait list than someone who's not. So it's really a faster access to care, and we don't, this is why this is a pilot. We really are trying to be cautious about how many organizations can come in. If I'm right, there are about 1,000 staff people in MCPS. Is that about right? Full-time staff people. And so it's very likely that there are, hundreds and hundreds of children who are in childcare currently. So this project is not by any means going to meet the childcare needs of MCPS staff. It's meant to be an advantage and build something out for the whole community. We have talked about, however, that our portal could give MCPS staff an even stronger advantage in the month of August, because we really anticipate that that's the month when teachers and folks who work in buildings are having shifting childcare needs. in a particular way. They've been doing something and now it's time to go back into the school year and your childcare situation changes. A lot of childcare facilities see a lot of change in their makeup in August anyway, and so that's a way that we've considered particularly supporting MCPS staff.
Trustee Afgaris?
So part of the issue, I think, is today is just people to do these jobs, right? To be a provider. Do we feel strongly that we'll be able to get, 6 new providers to be able to fill all of these slots?
We sure hope so. And one of the blockers, we work really closely with Child Care Resources, which is the resource and referral agency for childcare in the community. And what we've learned from them is that there have been, over the past few years, quite a few folks who would like to open a child care facility but can't find a location. So location is a stopper. There are quite a few folks who do care in their home and would like to open a larger program outside of their home, and location is a stopper. Location, it's really expensive to have real estate in Missoula right now. So we think there are people who will be interested. We also think this particular setup is going to be interesting to people because our shared services model is going to keep people full almost all of the time. And being full all the time means that you can pay your staff better. And so higher wages in our programs are going to be a draw. And finally, the opportunity to work in a co-location with other childcare facilities is a really unique situation. Most childcare workers are in kind of isolation, and they talk about the isolation of that work. And so the collegiality of being under one roof together is actually going to be very appealing to some as well.
Any public comment?
Okay. Hi, I'm Clark McGibbon. I'm a current kindergarten teacher at Paxson. I also taught in early childhood education for 6 years, worked closely with Grace, and maybe taught somebody at this panel's children in early childhood. I just want to throw out there the consideration of start time, which I know might not be a big deal for some. I personally don't have any children. I have really good friends with children that are teachers. And since the pandemic, we noticed a lot of child care centers in Missoula bumped up their start time because they thought, we can do it. You need a spot, right? Which I get. But for elementary teachers, our contract time is 8. Children come in at 8:12. And a lot of these centers don't open till 8. So I would just throw out maybe opening at 7:30, which is what centers I worked at way before pandemic would open at, and that seems to be changing these days, would be really beneficial for MCPS staff, not even just teachers, but also other staff members. An earlier start time would be really beneficial. So, yes, thank you.
Any other public comment? Seeing none, thank you for the presentation. Now we'll move on to item 2, which is to approve transportation route mileage. And it's over to you, Mr. McWilliams.
Yeah, thank you. This is, you look on page 7, it kind of outlines the TR1s is what we call them. They are something that come to the board usually twice a year. And usually it's in September, October, once we kind of establish the routes. We are on transportation, right? Okay. Once we kind of get the routes established, we're able to create that TR1 report, and then we do it again here in February. And the reason we do these TR1 reports, one, we're required to, but it allows us to get the most accurate, doing it twice a year, the most accurate reimbursement we can get to help reimburse the transportation fund. It's not a lot of dollars, but it gives us the most accurate with pinpointing those mileages that the buses drive. As you know, we get reimbursed based on the miles driven by the buses outside of 3 miles from the home school. So those are all reimbursable miles.
Any trustee questions? Seeing none, if I would need this is a full board motion, so I'll take a motion to approve the bus route mileage for the second semester of 2022-23. Moved by trustee F. Garris, second by trustee Witt. Any final trustee comments? Any public comment? Should I wait for trustee Witcher, or can we just go ahead and vote? We can vote. All right. All those in favor for approving the recommendation, the motion on the table, please indicate yes by raising your hand. Unanimous to all trustees present. Now we'll move on to topic 3, which is the building reserve update. And back to you, and this is information only, but over to you, Mr. McWilliams.
Yeah, thank you. So 2023, May election of 2023, we're proposing a building reserve levy for operations maintenance. The last levy that we had voted in was 2011. So we're quite a ways behind our norm. And a lot of that was due to the bond. The district really made a big effort to not burden taxpayers by going out for another building reserve, which is kind of like the O&M operating levy, and utilize building reserve carryover, which the board has graciously allowed O&M to use to help offset some costs. General fund has picked up a lot of that with some year-end funds. So we've been able to make that work, which was really great. The next slide just talks a little bit about operations and maintenance budgeting, kind of the 101 section. I made a joke earlier today that I don't get to teach kids, so I like the 101 side of things. But we have our general fund, which there's not a lot of dollars in the general fund. We have a building reserve levy. Of course, we all know about the bond. And then the building reserve carryover, which what I just discussed in 2019, I think you had approved O&M using $250,000 for each district. The $96,000, the $146,000 is kind of what we have remaining. Some of that's also been offset with some year-end funding, so we've been able to preserve those budgets fairly well over that course of time since 2019. And then we have the permissive levy, which we'll be presenting some projects to the board in March regarding permissive levy, which was part of Senate Bill 307, which I believe was adopted in 2019 or 18. And that allows the district to do some capital improvement projects in regards to the facility assessment report that we created. And I presented to the board a couple years ago that report, and it's basically a facility report outlining the needs of the district. And it's prioritized through safety first, and then there's some other guidelines within there that we can prioritize projects. It's a working document. We continue to update it annually, sometimes monthly, as things come up and come to our attention that we need to add to that report. The difference between a building reserve and a bond is critical, I think, in this levy, or in the public information. The bond is for large capital improvement projects that we just all saw: new schools, large renovations. What it's not for is day-to-day operations. It's not to replace a pump on a heating system or a window that was broken or our snow removal. It's our daily operating levy, funding is the levy. So we really think it's important that we get the right information out to taxpayers to explain the differences and why that $158 million is no longer, I mean, it's gone. It's been spent on all the buildings, and we've done a lot of good work with it, but we need to be able to operate on a daily basis too. A little bit of history on the elementary levy side. 1998, 2002, 2006, 2011, and you kind of see every 4 years or so they were putting out levies, and like I said, the last one in 2011 was expired in 2016. So we've received no additional levy funds in the elementary side since 2016. That was $500,000 per year, $2.5 million. Another difference between bonding and building reserve levy is we only get X number of dollars per year rather than the entire amount with the bonds. The bond, we got the $150 million, or as much as we issued at the time we chose to issue. We would get that kind of in one fell swoop. Next slide. This is kind of a busy spreadsheet, so I just want you to pay attention to the furthest right column. That's the combined building reserve spent in that fiscal year. And if you look, I just kind of added that to kind of show you the last 4 or 5 years. you kind of see that we're not spending a lot of money in building reserve, mainly because it's gone now. So the elementary reserve and the high school reserves are both expired and been spent out. But it kind of shows you how we've utilized some other budgets to really make operations and maintenance work in the district. So on the secondary side, 2004 and 2011, they typically have been on a 7-year term, and usually is around $450,000 in the last 2 times. Again, that expired in 2018, so we've received no additional funds since 2018. The next slide shows a similar spreadsheet to the elementary. Again, really busy. You might be able to see it better in your handout. Just those last couple years, how you've seen the dollars really decrease. In 2022, we pretty much utilized the rest of our building reserve in the Hellgate HVAC system in the welding shop that we had used for permissive levy funds last year. It came in over budget, and we had to utilize building reserve funds to kind of carry out, to cover the rest of the project. So what we've done is we've kind of did a little bit of a study in O&M to kind of help explain it in a little bit more layman's terms. And what we did is we looked at fixed costs for operations and maintenance. So that top section of that grid discuss our fixed costs. Before we do anything, any repairs, any replacements of equipment, this comes out right off the top. It's about $300,000. It's our pest control, our scheduling software, all our licensing and our alarm monitoring. Snow removal is kind of a hot mess right now. Our average is about $65,000 a year. This year already we're approaching $90,000 with the long winter that we've had. And we all know we have quite a few, well, we have a couple months left of potential snow. The bottom part of that, the 3-year average, we went in and we kind of combined a 3-year average. These are pretty good estimates. And I kind of narrow them down into the custodial world, grounds, and then trades and crafts. And all the building maintenance, repair, replace, equipment, it's all kind of intertwined in there. I didn't want to busy it all up. I kind of want to make it simple for you. And that comes out to about $535,000. And if you add the fixed costs with our 3-year average for supplies, equipment, repair, replace, we're sitting right around $826,000 a year. These kind of give you some examples of some of the costs we have. These are average over 3-year periods that we've spent out. Some of these are a little bit lower than what we'll probably see in the future, some of that being like flooring and hazardous materials. If we have a floor in one classroom that has asbestos tile underneath the carpet, which has been a pretty common thing in the past, we've covered up asbestos tile with carpet. Once you go to replace that carpet, it's kind of glued to the tile, so the tile comes up, and at that point in time, you're kind of obligated to replace it and abate it. Abating a classroom used to be about $2,500 6, 7 years ago. Now it's approaching $10,000. And then flooring, just carpet or tile, used to be about $2,500, so about $5,000 to do a asbestos floor in a new classroom, and now we're looking at about $7,000 to $8,000 for materials. So it's up $15,000 to $20,000 to do one classroom in flooring, and we have well over 800 classrooms in our district. So it's a pretty large expense, and something we kind of need to focus on. Roofing repairs, $35,000. Those are just repairs. So a lot of the conversations around the bond and roofing is we were only able to replace approximately 50% of our roofs, and we just kind of did a roofing assessment. We have about $2 million in roof replacements we need to do that are kind of in the hopper. We can make some last 3 to 4 or 5 more years, but there's going to be some conversation about roofing repair or roofing replacements down the road. The one that really bothers me is glass repair. That's basically just broken glass through vandalism, costing taxpayers $20,000. It's not a lot of money when you think about the overall budget, but it really does start to add up fairly quickly. So our proposed 2000 building reserve levy, I've addressed can you do the next slide? Or whoever's controlling that. Thank you. We've addressed the annual fixed expenses, the general maintenance needs. And what we didn't really address is all the district equipment needs that we currently need. And these weren't wants, these were needs. And this is kind of just outline a few And we broke it down in custodial equipment. This is over a 5 to 7 year term of the building reserve levy. We would propose spending this amount of money on this equipment. So custodial equipment would be about $145,000. Grounds would be the $367,000. And then, as you can see, we have some equipment needs through warehouse, trades and crafts, or some vehicle needs, I'm sorry. And then safety and security, just adding cameras to our district. I can't visit a building without a principal asking for a new camera. So they've really been useful in a lot of scenarios, and we continue to get asked for more. So the last slide shows what we're tentatively proposing right now. Again, I want to emphasize this is kind of first glance at where we're at. We're looking at a 5-year, $3,600,000 a year for elementary, and then a 7-year, $4,600,000 a year for the secondary. What that entails and those numbers, if you look in your packet and you go back, we have about $826,000 in average costs going out the door with our fixed costs and our general maintenance. And then you look at $700,000 in equipment costs. When you look at the $800,000 before the equipment, you've got about $400,000 left on a $12 million or a $1.2 million budget. And I didn't break these costs down in elementary and high school, mainly because it kind of muddied it up, and I just kind of want to do it over a K-12 area to make it a little more easy to understand. It gives us about $400,000 estimate discretionary funding to improve our roofs so maybe a little bit better, and maybe address some of the other issues we have in our district that we didn't necessarily list in the equipment. And some of these are bullet pointed on the left-hand side that are some of our reoccurring issues and some of the things that have been identified. This is just a short list. We have quite a few. And again, it's probably not a bad time for me to bring in the facility assessment report and show the district, or show the trustees that report, because it's been a couple years since we've presented it, and kind of give you some more idea of some of the needs in the district. So again, this is tentative. I think we'll kind of keep working the levy and what it's going to look like. We'll bring it back in March and have a better understanding of where we're going to be and what it's going to, how it's going to affect taxpayers on a monthly basis, or an annual basis, I'm sorry. So any questions you have, I'd be happy to answer.
Any trustee questions? Seeing none, any public comments? Seeing none. All right. Thank you, Burley. Now we're on to topic 4, which is a general fund update, and it's information only. Over to you, Mr. McHugh.
Thank you. So I don't have much to report tonight. I just wanted to keep the general fund levy conversation on the agenda. We have in the packet other agenda items calling for the resolution authorizing a levy election. So our February enrollment count starts today. So at all the schools, we'll look back 10 days prior to today for student enrollment. That's factored into our factored in with our October enrollment count to come up with our A and B calculation. So when we tally those numbers, then we won't be working with estimates like I have been. So when we meet next, we'll have fixed numbers of A and B and estimated levy and budget projections. So tonight it's really, here's where we sat last time we talked. We were estimating a $71,000 plus or minus elementary levy and a $362,000 high school general fund levy. And the elementary numbers are down from an enrollment standpoint, pretty significantly down, and they have been since COVID. The high school is experiencing its highest growth in probably 20 years. So they're really on different perspectives or different places right now, and you can see that in the terms of the levy that would be available on each district. So we'll talk more about this levy, but just wanted to bring that to the board's attention. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from a trustee? Vice Chair Walker Andrews.
I just want to say, I think all I wanted to ask, I understand that all we're doing is putting a placeholder in at this point with some guesses about cost.
Yeah, and we're not even putting guesses on cost for the resolutions. It's just calling for the election. So the election calendar we looked at last month, I want to say, the deadline for trustees to call for election is February 21st. So we have, or you have as a board, till the end of March to cancel an election and to certify and set levies. So we'll have the rest of February and all of March to have further discussions about numbers. Yep.
Trustee Decker?
And I'm having deja vu, but the way that it often works is that we would be running this levy election at the same time as our school board trustee elections, should that be something that's necessary. And those, it's open now for folks to file, and sometimes we have sufficient candidates that a true election would be required, and sometimes there aren't. And so we've sometimes considered the cost of running an election in this mix as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, you know, a good example of that is, or that discussion would be a $70,000 elementary levy election. And if there were a same number of candidates as there are open seats, then it's hardly worth the cost of running the election. It's kind of been the analysis. And that may be the part of the discussion. We'll also talk about a building reserve in the mix. So then if you're talking about that levy, then you know, sort of the same sort of discussion. But yeah, thank you.
Trustee Mercer?
But are the elections like flat fees? Like if we end up running a high school one, is it any additional cost to run anything else? Or is it just one election is flat?
It is an additional cost. So there's savings if they don't run one of the elections. It's not significant though. That's what we've determined. It's not significant. The levy election, or the election, is significant, but if we cancel one, it's not.
Any public comment? Seeing none, thank you. So we'll move on to topic 5, which is to approve the call for school election for elementary school trustees, resolution 2023-3. Back to you, Mr. McHugh.
Thank you. So for these next several agenda items, this is the call for the election, and this first one is the elementary election for trustees. There's 2 open positions, 3-year terms. This is elementary and high school, and the resolution's attached.
Any trustee questions? Seeing none, I'll take a motion to approve, an elementary board motion to approve the recommendation to approve the resolution. Moved by Vice Chair Hobbins, second by Trustee Witt. Any final trustee comments? Any public comment? All those elementary trustees in favor to approve the motion on the table, please indicate yes by raising your hand. Unanimous to all elementary trustees present. And now we'll move on to topic 6, which is for the high school trustee, District D. Mr. McHugh.
And again, calling for the election for the high school District D, and the resolution is attached.
Any trustee questions? And so this is a full board, a high school board motion. So is there a motion to approve the recommendation? Moved by Vice Chair Walker-Andrews, second by Trustee Sherman. Any trustee comments? Any public comments? All trustees in favor for approving the motion on the table, please indicate yes by raising your hand. Unanimous to all trustees present. Now on to topic 7, which is to approve a call for the school election for elementary general fund levy resolution 2023-4. Mr. McHugh.
And as applicable to the next 4 agenda items, these levies will be set at the end of March by the board. The levy resolution and the call for the election can be canceled. And so we'll have further discussion and prior to setting those and certifying those ballots.
Any trustee questions? Seeing none,
I do.
Oh, sorry, trustee Sherman.
I guess I don't understand why we're calling for a levy when we don't have all of that information.
We're following state statute. So February 21st is the deadline for the board to adopt a resolution calling for an election. And so it allows us to share that resolution with the elections office. They start preparing for an election. And you have by statute an additional date, March 31st, to set the levies and or to cancel the election. So we're really complying with the statutory deadlines for these elections. Sure.
For any other trustee questions? All right, I'll take a motion, an elementary board motion to approve the resolution 2023-4. Moved by trustee Witt, second by Vice Chair Hobbins. Any final comments? Seeing none, any public comment? All those elementary trustees in favor for the motion on the table, please indicate yes by raising your hand. Unanimous to all elementary trustees present. Now on to topic 8, which is to approve the call for high school election. Approve call for school election for high school general fund levy resolution 2023-4. Mr. McHugh.
I have nothing further to add for this one.
I'll take a motion from a high school trustee. Moved by Vice Chair Walker Andrews, second by trustee Decker. Any trustee comments? Any public comment? All trustees in favor for motion on table, please indicate yes by raising your hand. Unanimous to all trustees present. What? Unanimous? Are you voting? I'm voting yes, but I didn't know if it was. Yep, nope, I saw everybody's hand. Thank you for following up, trustee Witt. For topic 9, approve call for school election for elementary building reserve levy resolution 2023-5. Is it 5? 5. Okay, Mr. McHugh?
Same, nothing to add.
This is an elementary motion, so I'll take a motion from an elementary trustee for the recommendation. Moved by trustee Afgaris, second by Vice Chair Hobbins. Any trustee comments? Any public comment? All elementary trustees in favor for the motion on table, please indicate yes by raising your hand. Unanimous to all elementary trustees present. Topic 10 is to approve the call for school elections for high school general building reserve levy resolution 2023-5. Mr. McHugh?
There's an extra word in there. It says high school general building reserve. Sorry, so high school building reserve.
Okay.
That's it.
General. So this is a high school motion to approve the recommendation. Is there a high school motion? Moved by Vice Chair Walker Andrews. Second by trustee Witt. Any trustee comments? Any public comment? All trustees in favor for approving the motion on the table, please indicate yes by raising your hand. Unanimous to all trustees present. It is 8:16, meeting adjourned.
Recording stopped.
So it was weird to me that